How the fuck do you write so many books so fast?
I don't think I felt so much depression from a piece of media than I did for Game of Thrones Season 8 when it first released. The utter narrative butchery of that once great show left me profoundly empty. The show ended with a monumental lack of payoff or closure. Nothing was earned, everything was being rushed, characters had become like one-note versions of their former selves. Throughout the last couple seasons, the soul of that show was just slowly sucked out of it. That was 2019 when the show ended. It is now 2022 and we have this new show, House of the Dragon. House of the Dragon has done its part to soothe the wounds that I sustained from the Game of Thrones finale. Towards the end of its run, Game of Thrones had become this tacky, broad theme park ride. All of the care and the effort was put into grand action set pieces and surface level shock moments. The character writing was left to rot. For all intents and purposes, that show was truly narratively defiled, to the same extent that Twin Peaks Season 2 was once David Lynch had left the project. But I am pleased to announce that House of the Dragon gets back to the life juice on which this franchise is built upon. The characters, the dialogue, the scheming, the political intrigue. These factors are House of the Dragon's strongest aspects, and that's how it should be. For me, these are the fundamentals, the core tenets of creating captivating Game of Thrones media. You can have the snazziest direction you want, but if the writing sucks, it kind of corrupts the entire quality of the film or the TV show. We've got an abundance of shows that are well directed but poorly written, and this new House of the Dragon isn't one of them. Its characters are well defined and compelling. There were very few scenes, if not zero scenes, that felt like they didn't contribute or add anything to the plot or characters. Very few scenes where I became disinterested in what was going on, and I've got ADHD. Might be redundant to say, but gorgeous, gorgeous locations, oh my god. That's a big thing for me in terms of like escapism. Filming on location, going to these real beautiful places that like take you there, take you to this world. Especially for escapist stuff like this, fantasy escapism. Just some amazing locations and the visual world building is terrific. The sets as well, just all monumental and lived in. I've become well re-immersed in this world. And yeah, there is definitely some weak, obvious looking CGI, but when you're this invested in the characters, it really doesn't matter. Like, I couldn't give a shit. I can forgive those kind of shortcomings if it's got all of these other things that it has to offer, like good fucking character writing.
I do not wish to get married.
Even I do not exist above tradition and duty, Rhaenyra.
Excuse me, Your Grace.
Have you seen this new Netflix show? Oh, the cinematography is amazing, Batcho. You need to check it out. Like, okay, we'll watch it. It's well directed, great. It's a billionth well directed show I've seen this year. Is the writing good? No, it's fucking atrocious, and it's a one-note thematic story. Like, none of these fucking shows have anything to say. Game of Thrones also did this, but this also kind of incorporates themes of female oppression, female subjugation into the world. It does that very well, very authentically, and in interesting ways. It's like a commentary on how women were treated in the Middle Ages. It's really fascinating and disturbing to see. The ending of the first episode really just cemented that, like, this is not going to pull any punches. We're not tackling this in a surface level way, we're just fucking showing it. The man has to choose between the wife or the babe, and he's like to the wife, "You die!" It follows for the most part one central plotline, one King's Landing plotline, as opposed to what Game of Thrones did, where it's like a bit of King's Landing, a bit of the Wall, a bit of the Eyrie, maybe, a bit of Essos over there with the dragons.
The discussion is over, Zaro, Zoan, Doxos.
This doesn't have the multi-narrative intrigue that Game of Thrones did, but I don't mind that. It's a self-contained story, but it's a very well-written and well-constructed self-contained story. It's essentially this story of this royal family slowly falling apart over a prolonged period of time, and it was really engaging and a lot of fun to follow. It's actually in many ways a lot like Succession.
You do know how the act is done, I assume. At least in principle. Where to put your cock and all that.
Let it be, cousin.
Through squabbles over inheritance, direct or indirect slights, the odd aggressive outburst, this group of characters gradually grow more and more abridged, and it's so fascinating to watch. I don't give a shit about the action. I don't care, like, oh, someone's going to battle that person, or oh, someone's going to fight a White Walker next episode, maybe. Fuck all that. All you need is these characters in a room together interacting. They're compelling enough characters that in and of itself is entertaining. That's the gold of the show. All of these these different people in one room trying to get along and be courteous to each other. I loved all of the simple sequences in this, like the weddings, the dinner parties, the feasts, the funerals. In this show, scenes of nothing other than two characters talking about succession and lineage can be extremely captivating. And for me, that's what Game of Thrones is all about. When you'd have these weddings in King's Landing and everyone just hates each other and wants to just fucking kill each other, but they all have to get along. It's so amazing.
I am the god of chits and wine. I shall build a shrine to myself at the next brothel I visit.
You can drink, you can joke, you can engage in juvenile attempts to make your father uncomfortable, but you will do your duty.
The dialogue and those character interactions are what carry this show. House of the Dragon is also politics heavy, which I liked. It's all about trying to maintain the realm and keep the peace, and betrothals and succession.
It is true that as rulers we must marry for advantage, to forge alliances and bolster our strength.
The realm expects you to take a new wife sooner or later, Grace, to strengthen your line and produce more heirs.
Since you came of age, I've been slowly drowning in a lake of parchment flung from every corner of the realm. Marriage proposals all. I wish to propose a marriage. I intend to marry.
Some of the finest episodes of the original Game of Thrones show were all about that. That one plotline in King's Landing in Season 3 where everyone is just fighting over Sansa Stark as the key to the North and trying to get them married to their family. Like all of these different houses are trying to get a marriage pact with her. That was Game of Thrones at its absolute peak for me. But then the show began to tailor itself towards the people who only tuned into the show for like the cool Jon Snow action scenes or something. That stuff was all good as well, but it wasn't the entire focal point of the show. And that's what it became, just like fucking Marvel shite. Dragons aren't cool, alright? They're metaphors for nukes. They aren't fucking like, oh cool, the dragon, you light it on fire and blow it up. You do realise one of the central themes of the show and the books is that prophecy is something that drives people towards doing insane things, and prophecy should not be encouraged. The White Walkers are a metaphor for that which we cannot control. It's not just some fucking Phantom Menace, big army of fucking droids. Fun ice army men, kill the ice people. The White Walkers should have fucking made it down to dawn to really hammer that point in of the fucking no hopelessness of this show. It's not fucking about fan service. Excuse me. I flew off the handle a bit there. It's an anti-war story. You know that bit in The Master where like Philip Seymour Hoffman's like losing an argument and he goes, big fuck! That's like me in an argument with someone who thinks, Season 8, Game of Thrones Season 8 wasn't actually that bad. I hate that sort of shit. Like, no. It was shite. It was a fucking abortion of a show.
If you already know the answers to your questions, then why ask? Pig fuck!
Anyway, but back to House of the Dragon. It's not even that all of the performances are exceptional, the acting's actually kind of weird.
I would rather feed my sons to the dragons than have them carry shields and caps. For your drunken usurper.
There are just some lines here and there that are just delivered very strangely.
My obsession killed Rhaenyra's mother. I thought Rhaenyra was the way out of my abyss of grief and regret. I never imagined I would remarry.
But luckily, it was never in a way that like took me out of it, like broke my immersion. Maybe because they're doing strange accents that don't actually exist. I don't know.
I didn't come into your service wanting gold, the power, the station.
The end of the first episode had that like, ooh, the Song of Ice and Fire is gonna come, baby. I was a bit worried when they mentioned that, because like, okay, you don't need to do the fan service, you don't need to tie it back into Game of Thrones, just focus on being your own story. But the way that the show went on to handle that, I really liked. Episode 3 was when the poor CGI became the most problematic, simply because there's like a bunch of CGI animals, and there's a CGI deer or a CGI elk or something, and you're supposed to be like looking in reverence of it, like, oh my god, but it looks like it's out of, I don't know, like Sims 4 Pet DLC or whatever. And that moment, that was supposed to be all like, oh wow, that didn't do it for me. It was quite cheesy. Maybe if they had a real white deer, it would have worked. If they just put more effort into it. They should have killed a real deer for that scene. Oh. That episode also had that big battle, which was cool to watch, but probably also the silliest moment of this entire series. They're obviously trying to deliver on the action set pieces front. I thought it was all mostly pretty cool. It's just when all of these archers are firing at him and he doesn't get like one and maybe one in his leg, and he's like, oh no, my leg. leg! My leg! One other maybe small gripe I have with this show is the character Kristen Cole plays a big part in the downfall of this family and the separation, the feud. And midway through the season, he kind of very quickly became extremely resentful towards Rhaenys. The main character, blonde woman, Rhaella, Rhaenys, whatever. He was in love with her and she couldn't be with him. And it really upset him, so much so that he was became devoted to tearing her down. He devoted the rest of his life to tearing her down.
The Princess Rhaenyra is brazen and relentless. A spider who stings and sucks her prey dry. Spoiled cunt.
And I didn't quite buy that he could be that torn up over what happened to him. She didn't cut his dick off or anything. But then again, there's always the option that he could be an incel, which kind of explains the whole thing away, doesn't it?
A spider who stings and sucks her prey dry. Spoiled cunt.
I really like the wedding scene in that episode though, that was fun. Episode 7 titled Driftmark, that was pretty keen-o. A lot of amazing developments in the plot occurred there. I also didn't mind the time jumps, that was a completely necessary thing to do for this story. Once I'd seen Driftmark, I was kind of certain, I was like, okay, this is a really good show.
We play an ugly game. And now for the first time I see that you have the determination to win it.
Episode 8, we see Paddy Cosidini's character, I think that's how you pronounce it, all fucked up and the sickness has gotten to him completely. I thought it was Grayscale at first, but that's impossible because people were touching him all the time and Grayscale's contagious if over one touch, so it couldn't be Grayscale. The makeup effects on Viserys was amazing. I just want to say I really liked the Viserys character. I thought he was very likeable.
Fucking politicking!
He was a good man, maybe not an amazingly effective king, maybe a little weak, maybe a little too soft. I love that scene where he's discussing, what will my legacy be? Am I just the king, the in-between king kind of thing? I didn't really do anything, I just kept moderate peace.
What will they say of me when their histories are written? I have neither fought nor conquered, nor suffered any great defeat.
What will they say about my reign? Well, I know what they'll say. They'll say mid. It's always nice to see your boy from the World's End getting huge parts.
It breaks my heart to see you waste your affections on Gary fucking King.
Episode 8 was, of course, his final episode. You had that meal, which was just the calm before the storm. Again, I just love how passive-aggressive all the characters are towards one another. Just the tension in that room.
A toast to the young princess and their betrothed. Hear, hear.
Well done, Jace. You'll finally get to lie with a woman.
And you really want them to just fully obey Viserys and just stop fighting, but you know it can't be done. Ironically, his death is about to be the catalyst which sets off this huge war. And obviously at the end of that episode, it reincorporates the Song of Ice and Fire thing, where Alicent completely misinterprets the prince that was promised saying. That is also in fitting with the themes of the original Game of Thrones show. This pressing issue up north being completely ignored in favour of petty royal infighting. Alicent is completely oblivious to what he's really talking about, and that whole thing is forgotten as he dies. Also really enjoyed episode 10 as they're planning all of the different battles, perfectly set things up for the season 2, and the payoff is going to be so satisfying because of how well they've conceived this conflict. I'm just really glad that this season decided to be slow, to set up everything properly. Absolutely marvellous initial season. Overall, this is the best Game of Thrones media we've gotten since Game of Thrones Season 4. It's so far removed from all of the Hollywood schlocky bullshit of the later seasons of that show, where it was just all about cool, epic action scenes and surface level fan service. Fuck Hardhome, I don't care about all that. Oh, look, zombies, oh fucking hell, that's well cool. The zombies, scary. No, I'm really chuffed by what we were just given there by HBO. I'm really, really happy with that show, with that season. Solid, immersive fantasy. This is a good day for a Song of Ice and Fire fans, and I'm excited to see what comes next. Also, I'm now supposed to tell you to subscribe, so subscribe to my channel. It would help out a lot if you subscribe to my channel. All your wildest dreams will come true. Subscribe to my channel because I'm taking all this YouTube stuff very seriously. I know you think I'm like a big joker, big silly boy doing these videos, but I do take this very seriously. And for this thing that I love doing to be economically viable, that involves having a fair amount of subscribers and views. So I guess I have to humbly ask you for that. So please subscribe. What do you gotta lose? It's just a click of a button. It's a click of a button away. But all in all, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Get off the stage, you disgusting fat fuck. 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 Get off the stage, you disgusting fat fuck.